So just taking a few breaths and letting your weight settle as we arrive here. Taking a moment to just really feel this life force, this breath, feeling our bodies from the inside out. I want to welcome each of you and all that you bring today. And we're going to start by acknowledging the lands that we are on. We are here in unceded Huichin territory of the Chochenyo Ohlone people in the East Bay. And we are engaging in this practice of land acknowledgement. And I know many of you are familiar with it, but as one way to begin that process of acknowledging the theft of land, acknowledging the harm of the white settler colonial project, and to also honor the ongoing struggle for self-determination of the indigenous peoples that are here, and inviting their guidance in how we can come into right relationship with the place where we're at and with the indigenous peoples where we live. We will be donating 20% of our proceeds to Sogorea Land Trust here in the East Bay, which is a movement established by urban and indigenous women who are seeking to reclaim sacred land and sacred sites. And so they invite people who live here to pay a Shumi land tax. So if that's not a practice that you have done and are wanting to find out more about it, Kurt dropped in the link for the Sogorea Land Trust into the chat, so you can check that out and also see if that might be something to explore where you are sheltering. We are representing a community called Thrive East Bay, and I am going to share my screen. While I pull up the right link. While I'm doing this, I'm actually going to invite Kurt and Mutima to begin just introducing yourself, who we are, and then I'll introduce us as a community. So Mutima, would you like to begin with just a brief introduction?
Great, thank you so much, and welcome everybody. It's great to see you all. Thank you for coming. Mutima Imani, I'm out of the East Bay. Been in Oakland since '75, Oaktown girl. And I am a diversity specialist, been doing diversity work for over 30 years, and got trained by Price Cobbs, who wrote Black Rage. I'm a professor at Menlo College teaching diversity in the workplace, and I'm a work that reconnects facilitator, training facilitators to take the work that reconnects out. I'm working with Molly Brown and Constance Washburn, and we're in our third year of helping facilitators get familiar with the work that reconnects, which I'll talk a little bit about in a minute. Thank you, that's me. Kurt?
Hi folks, good to see everybody. My name is Kurt Kuwald. My pronouns are he, him. I've done, my anti-racism work was done primarily over the years with the Unitarian Universalist Association for 15, 20 years or so. And I also did some early work before that through, with Carl Rogers and the Person-Centered Institute in San Diego and La Jolla. And with a group called the Third World Counselors Association. That was a counselors association for counselors inside the community college system who created a program for counselors of color because they didn't feel like they were adequately represented by the other organizations. So I'm also a Qigong teacher level 1 in the Radiant Heart Qigong, and we'll be doing one little exercise of Qigong today in the practice that I'll be doing when we get to that part of the spiral. Really glad to be here. with you.
Thank you, Kurt. And my name is ARYEH SHELL. I use she, her pronouns. And I have been working as a facilitator, popular educator, arts activist for about 20 years in a number of different settings with a strong focus on racial justice, studied with challenging white supremacy and Asoke Femi and with a number of different groups for many years, and am currently facilitating in the university and nonprofit sectors in movement spaces, predominantly supporting white folks in our work to dismantle white supremacy, but also working in a number of racially diverse settings around racial healing, accountability, and justice. And have also done a lot of work around climate justice and immigrant rights. Studied with Joanna for over 20 years and have been deeply embedded in the work that reconnects community, and just wonderful to be here with you as we continue evolving this work and deepening and centering equity and racial justice in the work. So I'm going to now share my screen. And we will be going through the spiral today to deepen in our understanding and sharing of some of the traumas and grief that we are experiencing in these times, as well as engaging in some practices of resourcing ourselves so that we can feel more and be more present and open and alive in relationship during the disorientation and unpredictable changes that we're facing. This is a photo of Karuna Gold, who is one of the founders of the Sogorea Land Trust, and this again is our land acknowledgement as a part of the community Thrive East Bay. So this conversation is a part of a series called Medicine for These Times. We are a community about 5 years in the making, and we are gathering at the intersection of meaning making, of belonging, of arts and social change, and really seeking to center and build beloved community. And we have been hosting during this pandemic period a series of conversations and performances to uplift artists, to build relationship and connection with each other in service to creating a just and flourishing world for all. We operate with 4 main principles that guide us and anchor us in our work. We support each other to live thriving lives and to really bring forward our gifts and our medicine, and to hold our grief and to celebrate being alive at this precipice. We practice love in action. We really see it as a verb in creating networks of care and being in deep relationship and solidarity with each other. And we engage in a lot of shared learning and practice together. This space is one of those for building resilience, for unlearning, for evolving and thriving together. And we also are rooted in the understanding that we need to transform these unjust systems and structures of oppression that shape us and that cause much of the trauma that we carry in our bodies. And so while we need to do the internal work and the healing work within and with each other, we also know that we need to transform the systems and structures of our society, and we work together in that way. So Kurt will drop in the medicine for these times so you can take a look and see what other offerings that we have going on. I know this coming Sunday, there's going to be a music launch party for the Thrive East Bay Choir, which is recording its first EP, and they're going to be having a beautiful celebration on Sunday evening. So we'd love to see you there as well. And I'm going to turn it over to Mutima, who's going to share a little bit more about this body of work.
Thank you. So the body of work is called The Work That Reconnects, and the root teacher is Joanna Macy. There is a group of facilitators under the direction and guidance of Aravinda, who's with us. Joseph is in the group also, that have been working on the evolving edge, which means that facilitators realize that climate justice issues, which the work really started out by Fran, Joanna's husband and her, around nuclear activism, and then it moved into climate change, and we're now coming to the point of realizing that social justice issues and climate change issues are from the same source, the same mindset, seated and rooted in white supremacy, and part of the great industrial complex. So gratitude, you can see the spiral. Part of the work is the spiral. It's one of the main bodies of the work. And it says that basically if you start with gratitude and then you tell the truth about the pain that you are experiencing in the world, then you can see with new eyes and move forth. And so that's the spiral that we're using. And I want to read a quote that Joanna has written. So if you can go to the next slide. And it's about gratitude. Gratitude for the gift of life is the primary wellspring of all religions, the hallmark of the mystic, the source of all true art. It is a privilege to be alive in this time when we can choose to take part in the self-healing of our world. And I'm going to take us through a very short gratitude practice. So if you will, take a deep breath and lower your eyes or close your eyes just for a moment and begin to pay attention to how your breath breathes you. And let us together be grateful for the breath of life that breathes us, the oxygen of the divine that brings energy and life into our bodies. Being grateful for the physicality, the temple that houses our spirit. And let us take a deep breath and breathe in gratitude for our hearts that pump the blood, and for the whole concept of love and heart. And I'll give you just a few seconds to think about the things that you are grateful for in your life, the people, the places. And I would like for you to name one or two things that fills your heart with that love that I just talked about and that gratitude when you think of them. And if you are so inclined, let that gratitude bring you into a deeper state of physical relaxation and presence, and put a smile on your face if that gratitude brings that to you. Gratitude is a revolutionary act. So thank you.
Shall we put them into pairs?
Yes.
Beautiful. Would you like to
We're
share
gonna,
the
we're
prompt?
going to go into a gratitude practice, and it's a short one, but we're going to put you in pairs and ask you to talk about something that brings you gratitude. It's 4 minutes, and each of you will have about 2 minutes. So you'll be brought back into the room after 4 minutes. So this gratitude share isn't a conversation. It's a kind of a report out, a sharing from your heart. And we're asking each of you to deep listen to each other. And Arvid and Joseph, you'll be together. So deep listen to each other.
And you'll also have a third person so you can just share the time.
Oh.
I'll let you know when you're halfway through.
Okay, great.
Off you go.
All right.
Okay, let's see. Beth and Kaya, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Do you have
Hi.
access to join a breakout room?
I've not been given access. Do I need to? I don't know how to do that. Well, I mean, I'm on my phone. Maybe I need to get on my computer to do that.
I see. Okay, I'm going to assign you.
I didn't have anybody in my room, so I'm available.
Okay, let me. Okay, go ahead, Kaya.
Okay,
And
now
I'm
I
sorry.
see it.
And Betsy, let me put you in.
Okay.
There you go. And Monica, are you with us?
You can send me if you like.
Hi, Stephanie. Are you okay? So Betsy, did you not see your
No, nothing. No,
invitation?
nothing. Mm-mm.
Okay. Let's see. I put you in to breakout room 9, and it says you didn't join. If you go down to the bottom of your screen.
Oh, gotcha. I see. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. All right. And I'm not sure where Monica is. Monica, are you with us? Okay. Hi, Stephanie. We are in the midst of sharing gratitude. I'm going to put you into a room.
Okay. Thank you.
If that's okay. Let's see which 9. Okay. All right. Did you receive it? Okay. So I'm not sure if Monica's joining us. And I will send a message. We're halfway through. I'm going to give them just a little more time because, or what time are we at?
We're good.
Okay, we're just 4 minutes. Okay. I was checking. All right. I wasn't able to do it while I was screen sharing for some reason. I couldn't see it.
What?
So I was a little bit flabbergasted. I was trying to set up the breakout rooms with the
Okay.
screen share, and it wasn't allowing me to do it. That's why it kept bouncing back and forth.
Mm.
The screen kept doing the, you know, because I was trying to figure out how to, oh, I am recording right now. I need to pause.
Question might be, why learn about trauma? And the answer is because trauma is everywhere. Trauma is a part of life. And when we have too much trauma, it becomes acute trauma from experiences, and then it actually begins to affect us. So some of the effects of trauma really are hypertension, hypervigilance, anger, loss of appetite, apathy, isolation, and the list goes on and on. And so sometimes we don't realize that ourselves, maybe we didn't have a direct experience with trauma, but we're dealing with the trauma of what's happening in the world. The trauma of police brutality, the trauma of racism, the trauma of homelessness. And so there are these different forms of trauma. So let me read this. Trauma is a traumatic event involving a single experience or enduring, repeated, or multiple experiences that overwhelm the individual's ability to cope or integrate the ideas and emotions involved with that experience. And so we have historical trauma. And historical trauma, and I want you to actually track right now what historical trauma has actually happened to you in your life, to your family, to your communities. And then what is the individual trauma? So historical trauma and individual trauma, they play together, and so does collective trauma. They all play together. So historical trauma could be like the Holocaust, slavery, it could be an earthquake, it could be things that happened in the past that are still alive in the epigenetics of a person whose family experienced it, even if they weren't there. It could, historical trauma could still be alive in the body. So individual trauma and collective trauma are the kinds of trauma where you yourself has felt the trauma. If you've ever been harassed by the police or been a part of a crime scene, you could individually still be carrying that trauma, trying to make sense and integrate and cope with the ideas and emotions involved. So family groups have collective traumas, cultures have collective traumas, whole societies and community can have collective trauma. And so then there's vicarious trauma. And vicarious trauma is the trauma that people on the front lines, like police officers, firefighters, people who go to war, even people who are working in the industries where they are serving the public can have vicarious trauma. And I have a definition that I actually want to read to you. So vicarious trauma is transformation, the effect upon professions who work with those survivors of traumatic events. And secondary trauma is the emotional, psychological effect, experiences that get picked up vicariously by listening to the details of traumatic experiences. So people who watch the news all the time, especially the news that is sensationalism about all of the bad things that are in the world, can actually get traumatized. So I want you to begin to track yourself and see, is there any historical trauma? Is there any individual trauma, collective trauma, or secondary or vicarious trauma that you're dealing with? So it's real important. Can you stop the share screen just for a moment? I wanted to be able to see some faces. This is so important because of the current situation that we're in. I know some people who are completely traumatized by the pandemic. I know some people who are traumatized because family members have gotten the virus. So we want to begin to make sense of trauma and to begin to understand that wherever there's trauma, there is resilience. So there's a book, My Grandmother's Hands. He talks about the fact that there is Black body trauma, white body trauma, and police trauma. I actually went through some training in Newark with an organization called Equal Justice USA, and they talked about from trauma to trust with the police department and community members. And they really talked about the trauma that communities who have a heavy police presence have gone through, collective, individual, historical. And that the trauma that police go through every day is pretty horrendous also. Police officers have a very high suicide rate after they retire. They have a very high alcohol rate. And there's a large domestic violence statistic in police officers' homes. And it's because they have the trauma at work and then they bring it home. So it's really important for us to think about what traumatizes us. So if you have an experience and you have it once, it doesn't turn into trauma. But if you have an experience and it's acute and it happens over and over and over again, and then we begin to look at post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic slavery syndrome, and I've coined a new PT, post-traumatic prison syndrome, because in my work with families who have been impacted by the industrial growth complex, I see trauma. Okay. Do I have another slide?
No.
No. Okay, so then I'm turning it over to you.
Great, thank you. And I wanted to add a couple of pieces in as we're holding and lifting up some of the ways that we're shaped by and impacted by our world, to also acknowledge there's a term that Pauline Boss has coined called ambiguous loss. And there are ways that we are experiencing now these different losses in our lives where we don't have full closure, or we're living in uncertainty. Ambiguous loss, you know, she speaks to of when someone is kidnapped and doesn't come back and there's a missing person, or if we have a beloved family member or friend with dementia or Alzheimer's, where they're physically present, but they're leaving us in some ways. And now as we're in the pandemic, there's a lot of these losses of you know, rites of passage, of mourning rites that we're not able to fully complete, or just even ways that we have lived our daily lives in the contact that we have with our friends, or lack of physical contact that can, that's very real. And we just want to create space as well for some of the ambiguous losses that we're experiencing right now at this time, as well as ways that our witnessing of the police murders of George Floyd, of the kind of moral injuries that we are experiencing, whether we are witnessing or we are in some way complicit with or failing to prevent these acts that are unconscionable, these acts of violence and of racism and structural racism. that are part of our lived experience and the bedrock of this country, and we're grappling and reckoning with those as well. So just wanting to name a lot of the different kinds of grief and trauma that we're experiencing. And the importance, as we're talking about this, in how we resource ourselves to be with pain. And I came across this, part of what we're wanting to create here is our capacity to be with and feel more of our world and to stay present to it. And when we experience threatening events or intense experiences that we aren't able to complete in the moment, we can create these patterns of survival or protection where we can go into hyper-aroused states of vigilance, otherwise known as fight or flight, where we can feel anxiety or panic or emotional flooding, where we get overwhelmed, or we can go into states of hypoarousal, where we disassociate and go into states of freeze. And a part of the work that we're wanting to do is create a space for us to learn how to be with intense feeling and emotion, but also to regulate our nervous system and to resource ourselves so that we can be in this window of resilience and so that we can be with challenging experiences and be present to the suffering of our world without going into full states of trauma or getting locked into hyper or hypoarousal. And some of the ways we do that is through resourcing ourselves. In resourcing, you know, these are the things that we draw upon to support us in times of challenge. It's the practice of attuning to the sensations in our body, of belonging, of safety, of pleasure. And there's a lot of different ways we can practice resourcing. And so as we're talking about the challenges and the traumas that we're feeling in these times, we want to also support ourselves in being able to stay resourced. Some ways that we do that can be through orienting to the physical environment, through our senses, through our visual sense, through our hearing, through contact. Titrating is a practice of slowing down and taking just a little bit so that we don't flood our system. But because a lot of trauma is caused by too much, too fast, too soon. And so it's a way of taking small bits of our difficult experiences at a time, and then coming back into a space of resource or wellness or ease. Breathing, humming, movement, music, art, animals, nature, taking in the good of our selves, so that we can move back and forth, we can oscillate and activate, and then also come back into states of rest and resource. So we're gonna invite you to share. Again, we're gonna put you into breakout rooms of 3 and invite you to just reflect and share what is alive for you right now. What are some of the challenges or traumas that you are experiencing? And also drop into any sensation in the body as you speak to it, as you're feeling it, and what you care about. And we'll invite, after each person shares, to take 3 deep breaths together to really just let that story, let that person's experience ground. And then the listeners, we want to invite you just to reflect back in a word or two. What is a value or a strength or a courage that you're hearing from that person as they share? And then you can switch to the next person. So Kurt will drop the prompts into the chat, but we wanted to see if there are any questions before we invite you into your breakout rooms, or anything that anyone would like to add to some of the framing that we've shared. All right. So we'll have about 20 minutes for, 20 minutes for this. And Mutima, if you can stay with me, and Kurt, you can go ahead and. Okay, so Monica is. Okay, so I need to send. Oh, conversations are rich. We'd love to just hear from one or two people if there's anything that is still alive from those conversations. You can feel free to come off mute or to reflect any insights in the chat.
Well, I think one of the things that we were working with was this tension between hopefulness and despair, and whether or not we really have what it takes to change things now. And it really feels hopeful, but one of our group members felt like, you know, we've been through this in history already, where there was this hope, there was this, felt like revolutionary change, and then we went back to the same old, same old. So, so that was part of the conversation.
Yeah, and holding, in some ways, the tension, and in some ways, you know, we create more capacity to be with the uncertainty and to be with what is arising, with our love, with our sense of purpose, with our intention to show up fully.
And do play our part, right? Do what we can and how we can, the best we can.
Thank you. And as we transition, I just want to honor the stories that you're sharing, the challenges that we're facing, the unknown that we're living in, and to hold that with some of the gratitudes. And I'm just going to reflect back some of the gratitudes that were shared earlier about the new moms and babies, of the community that we're in, for the teachings, being friends who live far away, for the process of healing, for fresh basil from the garden to make pesto, for connection, for loving mentors who've spoken healing, potential, and hope over our lives and stories, for our grandchildren and sons and teachers, partners, resiliency, for chosen and healing biological family and connection, for the bees, for partners, introspection, standing tall with allies, for being a mom, for innocence of grandchildren, for 75 years without another nuclear bombing, for slowing down and experiencing the seasonal changes in gardens and trees and plants, for the night skies and family gatherings in these tough times, honoring and sending our love to people in Beirut. So just wanted to recall some of that as we are spiraling around, to honor our pain. And I'm going to transition it to you, Kurt, for seeing with new and with ancient eyes.
So we were then in that that point, that node on the spiral of honoring our pain, of experiencing and sharing our pain together. And what happens now on the spiral as we let go of that experience, release that experience, let that experience settle away and out for the moment. what our experience has been and how this has arisen on the spiral is that then we're then able to see what we need to do. We are able to see our circumstances with new eyes, with freshened eyes. And also perhaps to bring into our vision and our capacity to see and perceive the power of our ancestors and ancient wisdom. So both the ancient wisdom, the possibility of seeing and being present to what the reality now is, now that we've released some of the tension and some of the effect of the trauma. So what I would like us to do, there's two ways that I offer you to do this part of the practice that we're going to enter into and seeing with new and ancient eyes. And that is, you can either do it seated or you can do it standing. We're going to do a simple Qigong practice called rowing. And I'm going to vary it because of what I experienced in my own group here. So if you are able and willing, please stand right now, and otherwise stay seated, and you can do the practice, and I'll explain it for you seated as well as standing. So I haven't done this before on this screen with this small camera, so I'm wanting to make sure that everyone can hear me. So can I get some thumbs up that I'm being heard? Okay, great. All right, so what I'd like you to do first is to stand with your feet together and relax. And one of the more powerful ways to relax here in the Qigong tradition is to turn your hands, rather than allowing your hands just to fall at your side where your palms typically go towards, face your hips, actually turn your palms backwards so that the tops of your hands are faced forwards. And you'll notice that when you do that, your arms spiral just a little bit and you get a little space between your arms and your body. And just allow that to happen and allow your shoulders to relax. And then what we're going to do is that we're going to shift our weight to our left foot slightly. Shift, just move your body just a little bit so that your weight is down the left side of your body on your left leg. And then turn your left foot 45 degrees to your right. So now you have this little 45-degree angle there. And then step directly out with your right foot, just about 2 feet out. And now let's just take a little bit of time together to find our center there. You move your body back and forth very gently and allow yourself to finally come to rest at the place where your weight is right in the middle between your left and your right leg, and you're being supported all the way up by both of them. And then take your hands, both your hands, and put your right over your left and put it on what we call the lower dantian. And that's if you put your thumb in your navel, one of your thumbs in your navel, then your hands are right beneath that. And this is one of the 3 dantians in the body: the head, the heart, and the hara. And what we're doing is right now is we're allowing our energy to be focused right in that spot. And just relax into it, dwell down into it. You can feel your legs supporting you quite strongly, quite well. Your spine is erect. And then gradually begin moving forward and back very gently from your left leg to your right leg and back. Gently moving forward and back. And what we're doing now is we're establishing this connection between what the Chinese call heaven and earth in that tradition. So we're establishing a connection from the heavens to the earth, and we're moving there And we're allowing that energy to flow. And we're allowing ourselves to be fully embodied. So we are the nexus point between heaven and earth in this body. And now you can begin very easily and gently to allow your arms to move forward and back. And now what we have, what we're establishing is a bridge, a double bridge. One of the bridges is from heaven to earth because we're grounded. The other bridge is from the back to the front. So again, we in a human body become a nexus on this bridge. We're the center of this bridge that's moving forward and back. Forward and back. Just be very gentle with it. But allow the movement to be generated from your dantian, from your lower dantian. The movement is not generated by your arms. Your arms are actually following the energy of your dantian. The qi is active in that way. And one of the variations that I want to do right now is to let you experience, and for all of us to experience together, that when we move forward and our arms go up as if we're moving the oars, we're actually going to be releasing. We're releasing the energy that was generated when we were sharing. We're releasing any pain that came while we were sharing, that we were carrying. And we're flowing back to the power in our dantian, with the power in our body, and then we're flowing out again and releasing again. So rather than a rowing practice, this becomes a practice for release. So do that about 2 or 3 more times and then come back to center again and bring your feet together. And hopefully if you were seated, I'm sorry I didn't say anything about that, but if you're seated, you're able to do that seated, erect, and moving your arms back and forth. All right. Okay, for those of us that are standing now, we can take our seats. So what rises when we begin to see clearly is our capacity to commit. What rises when we see our circumstances clearly and with fresh eyes, and when we feel the wisdom of our lives, feel the wisdom of our many years, feel the wisdom of the ancestors and the traditions that we're grounded in, we then enter a domain where we're able to commit. And there's several ways to understand this. The simple, most direct way that we are commonly used is to say, I commit to. And there's another way that roots it in our body even further, and that is to say, I am a commitment. I am a commitment to this. So we're going to let ourselves be present to a commitment that rises up right now as a result of our being present to trauma today, to understanding trauma a little more deeply, a little more widely, to being supported in expressing our experience of trauma by other people. We're going to allow a commitment to rise. And what we're going to do is that we're going to then take that as it's beginning to rise, it's beginning to take shape, and maybe it isn't shape worthy yet for you as an extrovert. For me, usually I have to speak it out. But we're going to move back into a small group of sharing in pairs. We're going to move into a group with one other person, and then we're going to express what we feel we can make a commitment to, or we can be and embody a commitment at this point. We're also, though, going to be, we're suggesting that you be mindful of what practices will support you in that particular commitment. If I say I'm really feeling strongly that I'm going to be present to the street actions in my community more diligently, one of the resources that I need to reach out to are the groups that I'm involved in, and I need to listen deeply with them and take their counsel and their support and feel the strength of being in community in order to make that commitment real. So, Areyh, will you divide us up now into pairs?
Are you asking me to go? I can't hear you.
Areyh, you have me in breakout room 1.
Don't go, Kurt.
Yeah, okay.
Beatrice, are you able to join your breakout group? Mutima, yes, please go. Beatrice, are you able to join your breakout?
I don't know, but this one I don't feel comfortable with.
Okay.
I can't commit to all this stuff that's going on. I can't. It's hard for me.
I understand. Let me just move the person who's with you.
You want me to go in? I can go in.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you in group 3.
You'll bring me back later, please.
I will just stay with you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
In this form?
I'll call you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Welcome back. We're gonna pass it back to Mutima, but if anybody would like to speak to, if it's supportive of you in naming a commitment that you're holding for the collective, we'd love to hear it.
Well, I'll say that it was just very good to be with another person and to do that practice, particularly the commitment piece and the resourcing piece, and just to have them present. I appreciated that. We also think if you want to put into the chat some of the commitments that you're making and the things that you're feeling and the resources that you're drawing on to do that, please do that.
To gentleness. I am a commitment to gentleness, fierceness, and awe.
Mm-hmm.
Yes to that. Beautiful. Thank you, Angela. Fatima, you are up to close us out, and I know that Betsy Rose also wanted to share a resource with us.
Has what? What
What's
is
that?
What does Betsy Rose have for us?
Betsy Rose?
Oh, okay. Hi, thanks so much for this moment. I just wanted to invite everybody, if you're interested. I'm finding that singing is really being a tremendous resource for me during this time. I've done it all my life, but right now more than ever I need it. And I'm offering a weekly song circle, song evening, of some of me just offering songs, some of people singing together, some poetry, a little bit of meditation, and it's just a very healing community evening. And I just thought you might be interested. So I'll put my website in the chat, and you can just find right on the first page. There's a little tab you can hit and find. The series is called No Better Time to Sing.
Oh, nice. That's very nice. Thank you
Thanks
so
so
much.
much. Yeah.
Betsy Rose is wonderful to sing with.
Yes, yes.
Definitely
And
follow.
yeah, thank you so much. I think that singing, dancing, all of the self-care, repairing relationships, just going for a walk, being in nature are all the things that we can do that doesn't cost us anything. And it's such a great benefit for our souls and our relationships, and some self-soothing. And the partner I was with is committed to self-soothing, and I'm committed to self-care. So what I'd like for us to do now is to actually put your roots down, which is some words from a song. Put your roots down, put your feet on the ground, and really press your feet right now. And really come into your body. Because sometimes talking about trauma traumatizes, but the rowing and the movement of pressing your feet down and maybe swaying back and forth or caressing yourself or soothing yourself is just what you need right now. So come on back into your body. Come on back into the wholeness of who you are. There's a saying that says there is a spot inside of you that no matter what has happened, you can go there and remember that you are whole, perfect, and complete when you don't compare yourself to anyone else or anything else. So resilience is the gift that we get to give ourselves when we think about what it is that we love. The mind cannot think about trauma and resilience and love at the same time. So allowing the mind to quiet itself and open to the heart and to speak of gratitude is a gift that you give yourself in these times. Thank you for coming. Thank you for loving yourself enough and the world. And thank you for active hope. Thank you for showing up. Namaste. Namaste. Would you do the announcements for me?
Yes, I just check out medicine for these times for further events and gatherings. And just again on Sunday at 6, the Thrive East Bay Choir will be hosting a beautiful musical celebration, and just really want to lift up and different commitments that people are holding to for themselves, for pleasure, for justice, for family, for the children, for being alive in this precious world right now in this challenging moments. Thank you each for showing up and bringing your hearts, your broken hearts, and your commitments. You can come off mute if you'd like to say goodbye, and wonderful to be with you all.
Yeah.
Bye. Good to be with you.
So
Good to
much.
see you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This was wonderful. It was
Thank
really
Good to see you
wonderful.
too,
Very
Karina.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye, so long.
Every first Wednesday. See you then if you can come back.
Bye, Wendy.
Oh, bye, Ravon. Bye.
Oh, Patrice.
Bye, Beatrice.
Bye, Betsy.
Bye, Rick.
Bye, Angela.
Bye, Rick.
Bye.
Bye, Marisa.
Bye, Margaret.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Areyh.
Bye, Arya.
Carol.
Thanks,
Thank
Bye,
you.
Raven.
Thank
Bye,
you,
Wendy.
Mutima. Wonderful to be with you.
Yay.
Bye, Rick.
Rick, you're always so great to have in the mix.
Yeah, we're next door neighbors now.
What?
Well, yeah, you're exactly an arm's length away. I can just reach out and touch you right now.
There it is. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, you guys.
Namaste.
Well done. Well, yeah, I'm enthused.
Yeah. Thank you.
Good.
Right.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
Peace.
Bye-bye, Raven. See you Friday. Yeah.
See you then, Kurt. Thank you.
Yeah.
This
Thank
Yeah.
was
you.
great.
Thanks for coming. Really good to
Yeah.
see you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
It was really special. Like in the breakout room, I'm